There we go. Red button. Do we see it? No? We see it? Perfect. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Jay. So yeah, so think of this as a blank canvas of, the initiatives and the items that we're looking to measure. Um, really think about, you can build that on this platform as needed, whether it's in your role or the role of the funder or the grantee that you're working with. So we're at the homepage here. At the top, we got data, metrics, goals, stories, and impact profile. And then here you just see a little bit of everything that we're going to jump into across the platform. If you start on the data tab, this is how and where the data comes into the platform, which is usually the pain point for most organizations. Um, for any work we're doing with organizations, the first question is, how does the data get in here? Where does it live? And so if you click on add table, these are the various ways the data can get in. So that sort of CSV, standard export, import, export, really easy to do, something that a lot of clients use. We have a robust data collection component to the platform, which is called our data collector. And think of the data collector as a more robust version of SurveyMonkey, where data can come in and then data can quickly be visualized and built into a dashboard, which you'll see here in a minute. We also have the ability to transfer between accounts, and that's this existing table setup. So if you have the collective impact scenario, and you have multiple accounts under one umbrella sort of organization or entity, that's kind of where that would come into play. We have lots of publicly available data on the platform, but we can also visualize publicly available data sets that might not be on the platform. So just know we can get that data in through a CSV, or we can build a bridge easily to get that in. Down here, we have built-in integrations to Salesforce, SurveyMonkey, Google Sheets, and Qualtrics. What's been exciting is this Google Sheets edition, because that has really expanded, from organizations with a budget of $250,000 or less, to organizations like Mersey Housing, which are much bigger. All of those groups can leverage this integration, which we're really happy with, and this is something we just added in the last few months. So we've been seeing a lot of use of that. Depending on deal size and the scope of work, we can build integrations on demand. We have the capacity to do that. It just really depends on the particulars of that deal and what's needed.
When you say integrations on demand, do you mean with like somebody you don't have a third party contract with, or do you mean, oh, by the way, we'd like you to do this on the fly and we forgot to put this in the scope with Qualtrics?
More that ones we don't currently have built.
Okay. Just clarifying.
Yeah, and then we would, so exactly, and that's a good question. So like the Qualtrics integration was built through a project with the Gates Foundation and the American Society of Supply Chain Management, which is based out of Rosemont, and they needed the Qualtrics integration to track a project they were working on in Africa around tracking medical supplies, vaccines, PPE, things like that. So that's where the Qualtrics integration was built, kind of on demand, but obviously on demand definitely was not cheap either. Yeah.
Cool. No, I was just curious.
Yeah. No. And that's always something that comes up. So appreciate that. So yeah, that's how the data gets in. And when the data gets in, this is what it looks like. So in essence, you're looking at, tables, rows of data. So not too much different than what you've seen in Excel, right? What you've seen in Google Sheets. Know that you can do some manipulation in here. So we have a generated column function, which allows some calculations to be done and different manipulation in here. You can also download data and take it with you if the relationship is over. You don't want to use UpMetrics. We hope that never happens, but if it were to happen, no problem. Take your data out and put it into a new system. There's never any worries around that. The interesting thing here too is you can build multiple sets of data. The one thing you'll see consistent throughout our platform is you can build folders of data that can be named, or you can provide sort of a logic that makes sense for flows that work into the project work, and then you can just kind of see how the data sits. So nothing overcomplicated, but just something to kind of keep in mind as to how the data gets in and where it sits. If we have time at the end, I'll circle back here and I'll show you how the data collector works, because I think that's going to provide some eye-opening abilities to bring in data quickly, especially for some of your smaller partnerships. But that's kind of the data tab in its entirety there. Getting into metrics. So one thing I didn't mention is what you're seeing here is you're seeing a use case for a funder. This demo is a use case of a funder that has a focus in workforce development. And the funder is supporting around 8 nonprofits in the Chicagoland area that are all doing workforce initiatives. So if you look here on the metrics tab, you'll start to see the dashboards that we built. So similar to the data tab, you can see I've built a folder here called Foundation Demo. We have about 10 dashboards underneath that. None of this is prescribed. We would work with you to figure out what sort of labels you would like to label your folders, how you would like to build your dashboard logic, what you would like to name that. And so keep in mind that blank canvas idea applies really well here, where if we're looking at a collective impact initiative with one overarching dashboard for the entire, for the parent organization, but then we want to build folders for subsequent grantees and they get 3 to 5 dashboards within that, we can easily build that hierarchy pretty easily.
Okay, so that was going to be my question, is one of access, right? So
yeah,
it sounds like it's an access chain, like, you pay into being able to see all of it or just some of it. Is that a correct?
Yeah, kind of. The way to think about it is, there's umbrella access that we provide, which a lot of our funders and collective impact folks would like to say, hey, we want these 5 grantees have one dashboard of theirs to roll up to our dashboards, right? But then if I'm the grantee, I'm Perspectives Charter Schools, and I'm a grantee of this, education initiative, I probably only need, say, 5 dashboards for the initiative. So when I log in, that's all I will see.
Right.
But then,
okay.
Steens as the funder, let's say, would see access to Perspectives, Noble, KIP, Acero, right? And then they would maybe pull up 2 dashboards from each of those grantees to then see that those collective measures over time. And all that is really simple for us to program and to set permissions on the back end. And it's actually pretty neat to see that when that's in full action. So as we go through here, all of these infographics here are called widgets, okay? So if you kind of click on one of these widgets, you can see you can specify the type of visualization that you would like. Really easy to quickly change. You can change the mathematical function very easily. And then down here, the field is where it's coming from in the data tab, what column. You have some value formatting. You can change icons. We have a pretty extensive color palette, so we can always bring the colors for the dashboards on brand for the organization. And then you can add some text and you can do some sizing. So it's really easy to manipulate these widgets as they're built, or even you can build them from scratch. But we definitely like to show you, the ease of use there. And as you go down, you'll start to see our mapping capability. We have 3 types of maps available. So here you're seeing a shaded area map that's tied to a zip code and then a value. So the label is the zip, the value is the rate. So here we're looking at unemployment rates per zip. And then as you hover over these shaded areas, you'll see the metrics quickly visualized.
So lots of questions here. Because this is a functionality I've not seen in databases before. Or limited experience, but what have you. So 1, could you whittle this down further into like census tracts? And 2, is this publicly available, or are these things that you feed up into? Right. So like if you're serving people in a community, or you're serving people in different census tracts, can you track that in real time, or is that just an interface of like an existing data, like publicly available thing?
Jared, you want to take that one?
I think I understand your question, Jay, but I'm not sure. So if I'm off in this answer, I didn't understand the question. So what I always tell Vinay is that, like, in our mapping demo, that we don't go into the full capabilities and the robust nature of this mapping. And in fact, it's quite enhanced. Even in the last couple months, it's become more enhanced so that we can bring in multiple layers of data. So it can be informed in real time as that data might be. So if we're looking at census tract data and it's updated in real time, which we know it isn't, that will not obviously, it won't change until it's changed. But if we made that connection to that data, it will change in real time.
So you can upload data in real time
Yep.
through CSV files that would in real time update on that map. So it's not just relied on like public access. You can manipulate it in real time.
Yep. And then the thing that would be most compelling in this example is that we then also bring in programmatic data, partners data, whatever that is. And so that is also reflecting that. We are, and I say this all the time, so Vinay's annoyed hearing me say this. I really want to find a partner that wants to think through a really intriguing and compelling mapping project with us, and so that we could do something that's really interesting. So if that's you, Jay, let's talk.
We might have something. This is interesting.
Good. And bear in mind, I'm not the mapping expert on our team, but I'm the mapping like fan.
Nor are we. We are. This is just a. Yeah, neither are we. So no judgment.
And he explains it very, very well, and he's very passionate about it. That's why I deferred to him, because he loves his mapping.
Well, everyone loves maps, just no one knows how to really build them effectively. And so we are fortunate to have a guy on our product team that has, done some really great stuff.
Yeah, no, this is cool. I haven't seen a map function in any database presentation. So this is a cool unique thing.
Yeah, and there's 3 types of maps that we have available. So if you right click on the map widget, you'll see we've picked GeoMap, right, as the widget, and then we have markers, shaded areas, and heat map. So shaded areas we've showed you, right, with the zips. Heat map I kind of scrolled to as Jared was speaking, and then marker mapping is just really simple, just putting down pins based on an address that's entered. And then down here is an example of a heat map. So again, thinking about, here we're looking at concentration of where participants, served, where are they living. Think about on the grant making side of where dollars are going out, especially during COVID with all these quick response and recovery grants that were done. So really quick way to do that and share it. And another dashboard, I'll show you the code that pops up, but you can then take these maps, take the code and embed them on an external website.
Out of curiosity, because we're going to end up working a little more locally, could you zoom in on that heat map?
Yeah, of course.
I'd just be interested to see what this looks like at like a more granular
level. Yeah.
Level.
So that might be a bit too much, but that's kind of what it looks like there.
Okay.
We're working on some projects right now with Thrive Chicago, Jay. With Brighton Park Neighborhood Council, Back of the Yards Neighborhood Council, where we've done some unique things with mapping. I think for Brighton Park, I have to dig a little deeper, but if you're ever looking for a use case that's localized, we can share some of that with you as well. So
that's great. Yeah, the Brighton Park people are really cutting it. They're doing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, we've been lucky to work with them. It was through a MacArthur Thrive relationship, which was pretty neat. So yeah, that's kind of mapping and dashboarding. A couple features I want to show you. If you click on download here, the arrow, you can download the dashboard. So it comes in as a pretty clean PDF. That's pretty easy to use and throw into lovely board reports that everyone likes to make, right? But that's a good use there. And then Carrie, I'm hoping this gets you excited. We have this sharing capability. Where you can click on sharing, click on enable, get a specific URL, click on the URL, and then that specific URL comes up in a static dashboard that's super easy to share across stakeholders. And the one thing that you'll see is that this is a static version of the website, and the only thing that user can do is scroll in and out in terms of change. All they can really change is scrolling in and out of a map. So now think about, a grantee funder conversation, and we're bringing up the quantitative components of our platform, which is this dashboard, and then you'll see the qualitative in a minute. And then that conversation is just very insightful. And even with you all, as you work with your partners, you can bring up a date, this platform on the qual side and the quant side. And those conversations, become more informed very quickly. So again, just an example there. You want to turn off sharing, turn it off. Jared loves when I do this, and then you turn off and this becomes a dead link. So really easy way. Another term we like to use that the platform kind of exudes is the idea of data for all. So now instead of one person in Brighton Park Neighborhood Council that's in charge of 9 million things and data, more people in the organization can see access to data through these dashboard shares, whether it's a PDF, whether it's a link, or whether it's just jumping in the dashboard and checking it out.
And is that a like extra fee, or is that just like an embedded thing where you can just share this out as like here's just a URL?
Yeah, everything you're going to see today on the platform functionality is included in our base pricing. The only thing that's variable is the amount of professional services that the organizations receive. Yeah. So yeah, software is a fixed cost, which we're pretty excited about. And
Great.
now, yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that's a great feature.
Yeah, no, thank you. And then the other thing we added to it's unlimited users as well. So now we're not policing 2 to 4 users. It's more like, hey, it's unlimited users, and I think that's really simplified our pricing. So we're pretty excited about that.
For those shareable dashboards, do they update when the data updates, or is it a static one time? If the data is updating in the background, that won't be updated with a refresh or something?
It updates with the refresh. So yeah, it stays. It's pulling that live data into the dashboard share, and then the embed as well. I'll show you how the embed works real quick. That's a good lead into the next dashboard. So, so for example, here, Carrie, if you click, you see embed, you rip this code. So for the creative analytics folks out there, right, you're going to use this code and put it somewhere. Then this is a live feed into the map, but then also you can embed images as well, right? So you can put these on different websites, for fundraisers or just Insight or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So again, baselining on the workforce dev, right, demo with the grantees. Here's a grantee dashboard. So nothing you haven't seen already, right? We're looking at zip mapping, some standard widgets, but now the one piece of functionality, you can see sharing's on, so I'm gonna turn it off, is filtering. So you click on manage filters, this comes up. We're gonna filter on, let's say, zip, gender, grantee, race, hit save. And we're gonna look at our female participants, African American and Asian, and we're gonna hit apply. And then that search criteria is gonna bring us a brand new set of numbers to look at as it relates to what the user is looking for in this specific instance. So now what we can do, so think about this at the grantee level. Usually they are in, if they can, they're in rows of Google Sheets or rows of Excel, trying to create pivot tables to get some of this data quickly. And we were able to run that query, within 10 seconds or less, which is pretty robust. You now have this data, you can PDF it, and then you have that specific set of data that you can then share with the funder, leadership team meeting, an organization like Pi, which is supporting them through a funder, right? You just never know where this can go. And I think that's really empowering at the grantee level. And we're really excited about how that builds solid capacity in the orgs. When you're done with the filtering, you reset them, data goes back to its original state. You can see here, there's some more dashboards based on, the grantee level. One thing I'll show you too, and then we'll get in, I want to show you goals as well. This is a grant making analysis dashboard. So even for the work you all do with Steens, this could be something interesting to add to that of, looking at their grant making data over the years, year over year, approved by funding area. Again, nothing fancy here, right? These are visualizations, but again, we can quickly build these in the platform to bring some visualizations to, sometimes a lot of funders aren't really looking at their grant making data.
Out of curiosity, does UpMetrics have any sort of integration with grant making systems? Right, I know your third party was mostly data, right? Yeah. Qualtrics, SurveyMonkey, Salesforce, but is there integrations like Blackbaud or other common grant making software?
Yeah, so Flux is on the way. One of the former founders of Flux, who was their lead architect on the development side, is on our team now, which is pretty cool. And he's one of our lead engineers. So that Flux that Flux integration is in the work. So right now that's the only one, but Blackbaud, Smart Simple, Found It, like we run into those every so often. No real progress there yet, but I would say Flux would probably be the next one you see on that that data tab. Mapping, just to show you a little bit more a little bit more in depth. So here we built a dashboard just dedicated to mapping, right? Which is kind of neat. We're filtering on Chicago zips here. This is 2010 census data, and we're looking at poverty data, unemployment rate, high school diploma or less attainment, and K-12 enrollment. And again, just the ability to hover over a zip, see a value. You see the word label and you see the word value. Both of those can be customized and renamed to just make the visualization more intuitive. And keep in mind, we can do some layering, as Jared mentioned earlier. So if you wanted to put, up here with unemployment rate, and the other value we would add would be, individuals served or participants. We could have label value 1, value 2, with value 2 being participants. So you can quickly see, as organizations want to tell their story and show their story of impact, they could say, we're working in these communities, here are the unemployment rates, and here's the amount of people we're providing interventions to pretty quickly. So that's the mapping and the dashboards. I'm going to jump to goals. So goals is very similar to dashboard or metrics in a sense where we can, again, build folders. We can build multiple dashboards. Again, they're custom. They're specific to what you need. Sorry, I'm at my mom's house. You're hearing phones. But as we keep going, what you'll see here is we've set like objective-based goals that are tied to indicators. And so what here we have 2 indicators rolling up into one goal. And the neat thing too is you can also add qualitative descriptors in these goals dashboards as well. And I'm going to show you how that works. So here we're looking to increase participant income level by 20%, just to give you some ideas of goals. And one thing I'll jump in, I forgot to mention, you can share as well, right? So you can share these goals, and you can also embed. So you can embed these goals on external facing sites as well. Now looking at participant income levels. So what we've done here, if we look at female income levels, you're able to build a baseline, add a target, okay? And then you're able to go through and have this blue spark line, which shows progress updates at various points of data entry. So data can be coming in through the data tab. Data can be hard coded in through this interface right here. And then here we've been able to add descriptors around the data. So here you see awful because there was a dip in pay. And then we added this qualitative descriptor. We're able to tag it, tie it to indicators, give it a sentiment. And you can kind of go through, this interface to see that. One thing to keep in mind too, as you can input links of external articles, and the text of those articles go through our, we have an AI feature through IBM Watson that scans those links, or just scans that text to look for common threads across that article as it relates to this qualitative descriptor on this graph right here. So it's a really unique way to bring qual and quant together in one spot to really tell a more impactful story internally and externally. So that's kind of how the goals work. So again, we got double indicator goals. You can do some single indicator goals. This is where a lot of partners need help, right? They're not going to roll into this and say, hey, I have a 4 indicator goal, but that's where the professional services, that's where obviously I'm sure you all are doing this in some capacity already. We would definitely see you all as an awesome partner in that work. So we'll jump to stories here. So a lot of those qualitative indicators that we added on the goals section, they all kind of live here, right? So you can kind of see, this was something that was on one of those graphs or those dashboards. But there's also other articles on here that didn't jump on those goals dashboards, but they kind of sit here as a storyboard to help bring in the qualitative to the dashboard. What we've been able to do as well is add what we call collections. And with collections, what you can do is you can subgroup how these stories sit and how they're labeled. And again, in typical UpMetrics fashion, which is great, you can share these stories as well. So now you have a link for a quantitative dashboard, a qualitative dashboard, and then you can dive in, you know, at the internal review level, the external review level, whatever it might be. And it just adds a much larger perspective to what the work is doing. Jared, I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick. Maybe you could talk about the email functionality we've added with stories, and even that Chrome extension that you talk about a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, one of the things that we are really trying to do better with is moving away from these just kind of feeling like just stories, and there's sort of a good, you know, good feeling story here, and really trying to level up the way at which we give equal weight to qualitative, and making sure that there's ways at which on the metrics tabs and the dashboards that you're being able to bring those two things together. And we're getting really pushed right now by our contract with the Ford Foundation to assure that they're able to really capture that qualitative from the field. So some of the work we're doing with them in East Africa around ending government corruption is making sure that the grantees there are able to share the qualitative stories in real time about what's happening around their efforts. And so we'll roll out this week a way at which the emails that they send in to Ford will roll up straight into these collections on the stories tab, and then those will be able to be sort of reflected out through these, you know, outward sharing collection capabilities. That said, I think that we'll continue to sort of evolve on what more we can do with qualitative in the coming year, because I think that my sense is we have just not, you know, done enough work around this, although we're committed to doing it. The other thing that, as Vinay just mentioned, which I think is great, is we have a Chrome extension that allows you, while kind of perusing the internet, to see a cool story that you like, and then just click on the Chrome extension and it dumps it straight in to your stories on UpMetrics. So something that I like, it takes it through that Watson AI, it does the tagging, captures the themes, and sorts it accordingly. And obviously, once it's in the system, then you can edit it. So yeah. Did I catch everything there, Vinay?
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So that's kind of what's been added and what's kind of on the horizon that we're going to see more of our users using on stories. And so Jay, like you mentioned that you haven't really seen a database platform that has mapping. And then we also like to say there's the mapping that we have, but there's also not a lot of platforms like ours that are bringing the qualitative and the quantitative together too. So, which is kind of neat.
This is good.
Yeah.
Carrie, Amber, I'm thinking this would be useful when you have these broad networks that are doing a lot of newsletters, a lot of different like promotional things, and you can document it all here and have it kind of codified, which would be really, really helpful.
Can I ask you a question about the stories? And maybe you said this already and I spaced out for the few seconds that you said it, I apologize, but they kind of look like data highlights, the ones that I'm looking at right here. Is it something that you, like, can you show us what is it like to create a story from this dashboard?
For sure.
I'm just wondering if it's like, if you're looking at a dashboard and you're like, oh, here's a data insight I want to highlight in a story. Is there like a button you can push that puts it into the story feed, or is you go to the stories and then you say, you know, whatever is up 20% from last quarter or whatever as a story?
Yeah, so here we'll do, why don't we try to get we'll get one of these Sun Times articles. And so I'll take this. I'm gonna go back to stories, and then Carrie, just interrupt me. This, we're just gonna flow. So if there's something you want to see, let me know. We're gonna add a story. We're going to, oh, wrong one. So we changed it on the link here. So we'll say, right. So then you see how that's disagree on, disagree, right? That's more like it on return to school parameters, right? And then, so you add that in there. And we're going to say that's not great. And then here you can add a tag. So we're going to add, education. Some of these come up, right? Like education and school kind of come up through the smart components of the platform. but you can also tie it to, we have some other ones that are already built in here from student, SDGs or say school supplies, right? We got that. If you have a photo or video, you can add that. An attachment. Let's see what happens here. Nope, that's going to take us back here. We can tie it to an indicator. So let's say we're going to tie it to this SDG 8, even though it doesn't really tie to that. And then we're going to tie it to that. And then we're going to date it. And then we're going to hit post. So now that came in here. Jared, the link that I want to add, where are we getting that in? I don't see that anymore.
I think that you just drag and drop it into that.
Paste it there, Renee.
You just paste it there. If you stop sharing, I can show how we do. Yeah, you just paste it into
the top text. Got it. Okay, yes. Got it. Okay, let me just do that, and then let me do that, and then Kara, if you got any more questions, Jared might have a.
Well, and I can show that just for purposes of liking. I really like the Chrome extension. I can show you how that works if you want me to. So if you want to stop sharing, I'll just share mine.
Yep, there you go.
So, so I just did this while you all were talking. So the demo that I have here and is open is a community-based organization. I kind of made this one up. But as you see here, these are their stories. It's a very sort of general community-based organization working in children's mental and behavioral health in the San Francisco area. I named it Westwood, whatever. So assuming I'm one of those folks working for Westwood nonprofit, and I'm looking for some, recent articles around what's happening in my community, and I see that the mayor has announced $3.1 million of grants for nonprofits, and I think, oh, that's really great. I can go up here to my extensions, and I can click here, and I can create a link to that story, and then it is uploaded into my stories tab, and so that when I go back to my stories and I refresh, that will have been there. So, and then I can, assess for whether or not the sentiment is good. It seems like giving, money out to nonprofits is good, but I could edit it here, delete the story, etc. So make any adjustments necessary. But it's a good way to just on the fly make sure you don't lose anything. So,
Jared, could you show the AI analysis? Was that popping up there?
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
Sometimes
it takes a minute.
Takes yeah. So
right.
I hesitate to do it on that one. I can pull up another one here. I'll pull up this one and see what the AI analysis is on that.
It's a cool communications tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But I see it doesn't have the share, so you probably wouldn't be able to share it out to. But I guess it's.
Well, you could share a collection though, Carrie.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
So if Jared clicks on collections, and then you could share the link for the so like I was saying, you could take a dashboard link, a stories link, and put those in an email, and then
it's like Pinterest, but like with with like through
really
a data
cool.
lens. It's kind of like the same thing. It's funny.
I'm like,
it's really cool though. I don't mean that in a demeaning
cool.
way.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
Can you link to dashboard slices and things from those stories? Like say you wanted to point people's attention to this, like, I don't know, table or this graphic that explained improvement in X, Y, or Z. Could you put a link to the dashboard from the story? Maybe not.
I'm trying to, can you put a link to the dashboard? Oh, in the story. I see what you're saying. Like adding to, no one's ever asked that question, Carrie.
Well, you kind of can.
Suppose you could. Yeah. Like you push, whoa, my mind is blown with that question. That's really, like, I guess you could. I've never tried it. I don't want to try it in real time because.
No, it's okay.
But you could tie it to an indicator, right? So it is tied to an indicator, which is it's a mini sort of visualization in itself. But if you wanted to tie it back to the metrics tab, you would put the shareable URL in there, which we haven't done yet, but that would be something cool to mess around with.
Yeah. I know that you guys have
product enhancement going on right now. I didn't know this was going to happen, Jay. Like, what's the deal?
I know you guys have, I know we don't have a ton of time and
Yeah.
you may not be totally done with your presentation, but just really quick, I'm guessing just from looking at what you guys have presented, this isn't really like a case management tool or like a CRM. It's
Correct.
just like more like a visualization type situation. Nobody's going to be like managing their caseload in UpMetrics.
Probably not. No, and I don't really want us to be. Like I would say that like I feel like that space is owned enough by, you know, ETO and others that that just doesn't feel like what we're trying to do here in the case management. That said, you know, I've created some sort of fun ways at which you could capture more sort of real-time efforts from the field from a case management lens. So I built this kind of simple survey that, you know, I used to be a social worker for 10 years. So I envisioned that I may go to a family's house and do some things and test some interventions and report out right in the, you know, sitting in my car, you know, went to this family, this was the organization, this was the person, you know, maybe not identified person, but was the intervention successful? Was it not successful? Right. And then just clicking using the data collector on that in real time. And then that's populating a dashboard for us to share out about the interventions and whether or not they're effective. So you could, there's ways at which we can use our technology to gather sort of real-time interventions from the field through the lens of somewhat case management, but I don't think that we need, it doesn't make sense for us to try to own that market share.
Yeah, got it. No, that makes sense. And when you use the data collector, it's not, you're not creating profiles for like individuals and then connecting data to them at any point. Okay, it's more.
There's some light capabilities there, like where we have, you know, at a school level, we've had folks enter IDs and then you could do a filter by ID, but it's not, our platform is really intuitive, but when it comes into like case management and pulling individual records, that's not like our strength in terms of intuition, you know? So we've had some workarounds. And again, I'm thinking like a former public school teacher here, right? So you see a platform, you're just trying to make it work. We've had some of that, but I think with large scale stuff, we're definitely, we're not a system of record in those use cases. We're more something that sits on top of that system of record to make the data easier to interpret and visualize. So,
And I'll just add, Carrie, like this is the type of conversations that I love, and this is where I think that we get sort of pushed to evolve as a software company to better meet the market. But I also think that there's ways that we can be really creative within our platform as an agnostic sort of tool that we want to continue to explore and then share with others. Like this org did this, or this was a creative way at which we did that. And so that's how we kind of position ourselves as this partner in this. The thing that I would say is that, you know, for UpMetrics, I believe we are the software solution that was built really by the sector. Like what, you know, those of us part of building this out have tried to continue to improve, but then highlight on the things that we really think are important. And I think that like the sharing functionality really reflects that, right? The